Good evening, Lord Malachi coming to you again. I'm broadcasting tonight about the latest episode of My Little Pony that aired this past weekend, titled Stranger Than Fanfiction, which I did chuckle at slightly considering I am something of a fanfiction author, although I do not dabble in FiM fiction personally. There's a lot of great stuff to be mined there, and I certainly am happy to see that there's many people out there who do. I just happen to have too many projects on the burner already to write more pony fan fiction. So to start off today, as you can see, we have our little special guests here. I decided since this last episode did heavily feature in Daring Do that I'd get out my Rainbow Dash, and it would be a nice time to break out the Daring Do collection by A.K. Yearling, which anyone who's not aware of it does contain three full novels based on the character of Daring Do, such as Daring Do and the Forbidden City of Clouds, Daring Do and the Eternal Flower, and Daring Do and the Marked Thief of Maripor. That's Maripor, not Maripor. It also happens to come with a figure of Daring Do herself encased in this nice little book-like thing here. I'm using it to hold on to the little sheet. And then here is like the golden idol of Daring Do, so that's also included in the set. Just a little something I'd show off. It's available on Amazon and other sites. Not exactly a massive rarity that's impossible to come by. Get in there. Thank you. That said, let's talk a little bit about Daring Do. I personally like what Daring Do is. I like that she's this action figure, you know, the homage to Indiana Jones. What I personally don't care for is the fact that they actually made A.K. Yearling out to be Daring Do, and rather than Daring Do being a fictional character, she ends up being an actual real person, like the alter ego of the author. It's not something that I hate or that I'm thoroughly against. I just thought it was kind of a dumb idea. I much preferred it when it was introduced, and it broadened Rainbow Dash's character by having her get really obsessed with reading all these books. But I thought it kind of took something away when we found out that A.K. Yearling really is Daring Do, instead of just having her be a fictional character that A.K. Yearling writes about. So that was something I didn't really care for. So as such, there were elements of this episode that I didn't care for, but it's certainly not a bad episode, and it's certainly not something that I absolutely hate about the series. It's just one of the choices I didn't personally agree with. Big thing we did get in this episode was we had guest star Patton Oswalt, who did play the new character Quibble Pants. I like the way that he and Rainbow Dash hit off this great friendship over their mutual love of the Daring Do books, and then they kind of end up at odds with each other because Rainbow Dash likes all the Daring Do books, and Quibble only cares for the original trilogy and feels that after that A.K. Yearling became a hack writer and the books weren't realistic and they just weren't as tight and cohesive as the original series, and yada yada. So there's many different pokes at different types of fans here. Obviously, they're making fun of the Brony community somewhat, and that's fine. You know, it's all in good fun. There's nothing about this that's mean spirited. Certainly, the Daring Do convention that is in the first half of this episode is very much meant to be a take on BronyCon and Everfree and other such conventions around the country that tend to happen, and that gather a lot of Bronies and Pegasisters together. Again, I don't really have a problem with that because I don't think it was mean-spirited. I think it was kind of fun. I've personally never been to a Brony convention. I used to attend Otakon regularly. I went for about 8 consecutive years between 2002 and 2008. At that point in time, I ended up stopping because my interests kind of moved to other things, and while I was still into anime and still am, it's just it's not as big for me. Also, the amount of money that and time that I would have to spend, I just had other projects I wanted to pursue, and that's why I haven't been back since 2008. I've considered at times going to BronyCon because it's held in the same place as Otakon was, so I'm familiar with it, and it's only a few hours away. But it just hasn't really been something that I've decided I wanted to do. Again, it's the money to stay down there and the time that it takes. And while it's not something that I'm against and it's something I would probably enjoy, I just don't know if I'd get enough out of it in order to put those kind of resources into it. But tabling that, Patton Oswalt was a great choice to play the character of Quibble Pants. I like the way that he's obsessed with little details, and he's constantly thinking throughout this episode as the plot unfolds and they get involved in this actual real life daring do adventure, and he keeps thinking it's just some silly little stupid package that Rainbow Dash has bought to try to prove a point, and doesn't realize until about halfway through the real adventure that it's something that's actually real and their lives are at stake and they're really in the middle of this daring do quest. These parts of it were almost a little over the top, the way that Quibble even criticizes little things about the way that Daring Do deduces things, or about how they escape from the dangers of the temple by flying out the top of it. It's probably true to the character. I definitely think Patton did a good job with it, and I don't think that it was so much poor writing I just think it was almost a little over the top in having him be so highly critical of everything. But you could also say it's the same thing with Rainbow Dash and the way she just rushes to defend everything the AK Yearling is written. Now, she does have an unfair advantage. Rainbow Dash is friends with AK Yearling. She's gone on the adventure with her before, so it stands to reason that she would want to support her friend and not let her be trash talked like that. But again, this is one of the things that I feel is a problem with making AK Yearling into actually being an alter ego of Daring Do rather than just being a creation. Daring Do was really best as this character that existed in these books and was a role model to different ponies. And when we made her into an actual person, this alter ego of AK Yearling, it just kind of took something special away from it. It kind of took the magic from that element away, which is interesting since Daring Do is a Pegasus, not a unicorn, so I guess that's an interesting choice of words. But it just kind of broke the spell a little bit and made Daring Do into someone that could actually lose. It gave her some real I guess you could say, quote-unquote, human frailties. And normally that's something that you want to do because it's something that brings a character into more three-dimensionality. It makes a character someone that you can relate to better. But in this particular case, Daring Do was always meant to be larger than life, and I think this actually ends up making her smaller as a character. The way she ultimately resolves the situation, and she kind of gets the respect of Quibble Pants back, while at the same time kind of taking some of the things he says into consideration while not taking them too seriously, because Quibble's kind of the obsessive fanboy looking for every little chip in the in the armor and trying to show her things that aren't perfection. So I guess you could, in some ways, you could say that Quibble is me when it comes to the recent episodes of Star versus the Forces of Evil. But maybe that's a road we don't want to go down right now. Quibble is actually an interesting character. I like the way he's meant to represent certain aspects of the fandom, and I like the way it ends with him and Rainbow Dash becoming friends. We don't really see Rainbow Dash making friends with many stallions, and I think this is important because this aspect of her character can somehow make her seem sometimes like she just doesn't really do well with men. And what I really like about this is it's not this romantic thing. It's not that like he was kind of into her or she was into him. They're just two ponies that happen to share an interest that really draws them together. And at the same time, because they like different aspects of it, in some ways it kind of pushes them apart, but they come to respect each other's views on different things. And while they don't necessarily share those same views come the end of the episode. They kind of learned to love and tolerate and allow each of them to appreciate what Daring Do is and celebrate it in their own ways. And this ends up making them good friends in the end of it. So I'm really glad to see Rainbow Dash make friends with the Stallion. And again, I'm not trying to ship her and Quibble together. I really don't ship Rainbow Dash with anybody. I don't really ship her with any specific mares either. But it's just nice to see that she actually has some guy friends in her life, especially since she's a very tomboyish character. So this was a pretty cool thing. I would like to see more of Quibble in the future, possibly, but I'd like to see if his character comes back, if Patton Oswalt's willing to revisit it, I would like to see him do it in a different capacity. Like, instead of him just being all centered around the whole Daring Do fandom, I'd like to see him outside of that, maybe more what he's like in the quote-unquote real world. So that would be something that would be worth pursuing, and I could appreciate this. Overall, this episode had some pandering with the whole convention thing in it, and it had some missteps in the adventure parts. I'm not really going into great detail here because there was nothing in it that set me off. You know, there's little things that I thought dragged it down a little bit, but there was nothing that I thought made this a bad episode or poor writing. It was an average episode, probably a little bit above average because it was a character episode, and we haven't really had a long Rainbow Dash episode in a while, especially one that was really hers. I mean, Quibble was a part of this and he was a new character, but usually a lot of the Rainbow Dash episodes tend to drag in other characters, like it's like Rainbow Dash and Pinky when they travel to Griffinstone, or Rainbow Dash and Rarity when there's the whole Rarity Investigates, and how it looked like Rainbow Dash was being framed with the whole Wonderbolt situation there. So this was nice to see Rainbow Dash get to carry an episode all her own, because I don't think that we've really seen that in a while. So this was good. It wasn't a home run. It didn't hit it out of the park. It wasn't, phenomenal, but it was certainly far from a poor episode either. That's really kind of been the hallmark of season 6 right now. There's been nothing all that terribly memorable. There's been little things that I've liked. But there's been nothing that's really made me sit up and say, wow. But at the same time, there's been nothing that's really made me feel like they lost the game either. The show has changed somewhat, not in the day-to-days of it. Really, the only mistake that I feel it's making over and over again is making such a big deal out of Starlight Glimmer. I definitely feel that her character is starting to introduce character overload. And while she's not in every episode, when we have the ensemble episodes, we already had the main 6, and I guess you could argue it's kind of main 7, since I would include Spike. Spike is enough of a character that he gets his own episode sometimes, and he's definitely an important part of the dynamic of the main 6, so I do include him. Introducing Glimmer and Starlight Glimmer just doesn't really add anything to the table, in my opinion. I mean, I question them continuing on with Twilight after the end of season 3. It's not that Twilight's a bad character, but once she ascended to princess status, it's not that I felt that she should have gone to live in a castle and been far, far away, but there's not as much that you can do with her character anymore. She's kind of achieved her height, and when we have Twilight episodes that have Twilight continuing to learn things, that's not a terrible thing. It's certainly, she should continue to learn things, but the impact is kind of softened because she isn't really the student anymore. She's more of the teacher, and sometimes when she does learn the lessons, it becomes a thing, the student teaches the teacher. Again, not a bad thing, but really I felt that after season 3 would have been a good time to consider maybe beginning to phase Twilight out and have her trying to rehabilitate Trixie, perhaps. I feel that Trixie's a very rich character, and it would have been interesting to see her become the new focal point of the main 6. And I would have liked to have seen the rest of Twilight's friends not really want to accept Trixie because she's been such a bitch to them in the past, and she's so self-centered, and because they don't like Trixie and they don't really want to to help her, it becomes kind of this whole cycle, this whole thing where they're losing what friendship really is, and they have to find it in their hearts to truly forgive Trixie for her sins of the past. And Trixie also has to find it in herself to look beyond her own little universe, the little things around her, and come to realize that she needs help if she's going to make it. She's here by Twilight's blessing, and over time, really become this person that at first wasn't liked, and then someone that we do like. Obviously, that's not what happened, and it was seasons ago. It's not going to happen at this point, and it's not something I'm really pushing for so much anymore. I just feel it was a missed opportunity, that they could have put Trixie into a larger position there and still had Twilight be in the background as the Princess of Friendship. She still could have been someone there to be consulted, and not like she would have had to have been written out of the series or not been important in her friends' lives anymore. So that was a thing. The reason I'm pushing Trixie there isn't just because I personally happen to like Trixie. I just feel she would have been a great character, not only to teach friendship lessons too, but who could perhaps inadvertently end up teaching more friendships lessons to other characters. So that would have been something that I think could have brought the series up a lot. But it's just one idea. I'm one of the people who actually thinks that season 4 and season 5 overall were pretty good. Season 6, the jury's still out, but because there's still about half of it to go. But I haven't really seen anything in season 6 that just made me upset or really made me feel the show is going in the wrong direction. The one exception being Starlight Glimmer. Essentially, what's being done with Starlight Glimmer is what I had just suggested a moment ago with Trixie. But the thing is that I feel that Trixie is a more interesting character, and there's more to mine with her. They could have really got into her past and who she is and fleshed her out a bit. Starlight Glimmer is fleshed out somewhat at the end of season 5 and a little more in season 6. And if she's going to become this big thing, then that's not a bad idea. I just don't feel that her character is terribly important beyond the villain role she played at the beginning and end of season 5. And I felt her story kind of should have been over after Twilight saves her at the end of season 5. But it is what it is, that this is a minor thing. So overall, My Little Pony season 6, we do have the new writers. Things have changed. Most of the old staff have moved on to the upcoming My Little Pony movie next year. And we have felt those changes ripple through in the show, but overall, I still feel that it's good. Perhaps not as good as some of the prior seasons, but certainly I'm not seeing anything that's make me want to question why I'm still watching the show. The only thing I question is how long the show should actually run for, and I'm certainly not rooting for the show's demise or wanting it to end or anything like that. I do want the series to end on a high note. So I do hope that, as special as My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is, it doesn't become a show that sticks around for about 2 seasons too long. I'm not hoping that season 6 is the last one. I'm hoping really that it has at least 7 seasons now to carry it through that film. If anything, I'm more worried about Equestria Girls, because I know Equestria Girls has not been a very profitable venture for Hasbro, and signs are really pointing to the fact that the upcoming Legend of Everfree film is going to end up being the last Equestria Girls film, because the toy line isn't selling enough, and that's moving Hasbro in the direction of pulling the plug. This, I feel, would be a mistake. I know some people really don't care for Equestria Girls, but I'm really someone who loves the character of Sunset Shimmer. I feel that she's this really three-dimensional character who grows with every movie, and there's so many opportunities with her. I really want to see her move farther and truly come into her own. I'm not sure if introducing Sci-Twi into that world as a permanent fixture, rather than just as a character in Friendship Games, is going to help with Sunset Shimmer on that front. I felt one of the primary messages of Rainbow Rocks, is that at the end of that film, the message is basically that Sunset Shimmer is the Twilight Sparkle of that world, and that's the way that it should have been. Introducing Sci-Twi kind of damps that down a bit and begins to make Twilight more important again. We'll see what happens with Legend of Everfree, and that's something that I do hope is good. I expect to do an in-depth review of that film after it comes out, so that'll be something you can look for when that comes in a few months. As of right now, that's pretty much where I feel things stand. I honestly don't have a tremendous amount of things to say at this point in time, but this is my first time actually talking about an episode, and there really isn't enough in it that I feel that I can praise or tear apart. Stranger Than Fanfiction is overall a thoroughly average episode, neither exceptionally good or exceptionally bad. Made a little bit more special by having Patton Oswalt voicing a character and really being an important part of it, much like Cheese Sandwich was in Pinky Pride, whom Weird Al Yankovic played. And that's another character I'd like to see come back another time and perhaps see some more sides of, aside from his party planning side. So that is it for now. We have some more My Little Pony coming up this week, and season 6 is still far from over, so there will definitely be more of these videos. I know for people that have been watching my videos, the last one I did for Star ended up being a lot longer than I thought. Just speaking, I had so much to say about Fetch and Star on Wheels because I felt that so much was wrong. So I have decided going forward with the Star Versus reviews, I'm probably going to do 2 separate ones and just break down each individual episode because I felt that 50 minutes was just too long of a video to watch, but I didn't really see a lot that I wanted to edit out of that, so I've just decided to let it stand for now. But if you're watching these videos as I put them out, that's something you can expect to see change coming next week. The next thing that I put out will be one on the second week of our Summer of Steven, the summer adventures going on in Steven Universe, and that will probably hold things until next weekend when we get back to Star Versus. I may again do other things. I just had the opportunity to see Batman Mask of the Phantasm in theaters tonight, which there's only 2 35mm prints left of that film in existence, and I just got to see one of them, so that was a really cool experience. I'd seen the film dozens of times beforehand, but it really is different seeing it in a theater, and I did enjoy that. So that's our show for tonight. Go out there, be a nice brony, and thanks for watching. Have yourselves a good evening.